Everyone. This webinar is probably going to be one of the most important that you will listen to over the next 5 years. I'm going to be speaking authoritatively about some topics, and then I'm also going to be giving my opinions on other topics, but take it very seriously. And towards the end, I'm going to share maybe one or two things that are very, very important for the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years. So please take this webinar seriously. Hopefully, you'll gain one things depending on your jurisdiction. We've tried to make the webinar as multi-jurisdictional as possible. So I'm going to share my screen now. And we'll just dive in directly. Please, as I'm speaking, put your questions in the Q&A box. Don't wait till the end. And then hopefully we'll be able to unmute, one or two people, who might want to, speak and ask questions directly. So welcome. If there are two things you get out of this webinar, the first is pay attention to the months of January, February, and October, and I'll explain why, but I don't want to forget, so I want to drop it at the beginning. Pay attention to the months of January, February, and October, and also approach 2026 without rose-tinted glasses. There's a saying we have in Nigeria that whatever your eyes see, just take it like that. Don't try to rationalize it. Don't try to use logic. Whatever your eyes see in 2026 and beyond, please just take it like that and act quickly. Just take it as fact, whether it makes sense to you or it does not make sense to you. Accept it and move quickly in terms of investing. Okay. Obviously, there's a disclaimer that this cannot be recorded, but internally we're going to record. So Hepzibah, please go ahead for internal purposes, and we might share, some aspects with those who are not able to join us for this session. So let's begin with geopolitical trends. What's happening? I'm sure it's no longer news that there are changes to immigration policies and work visas. So for some unfortunate countries, Nigeria inclusive, we now have restrictions in terms of business visas. At a point, it was 3 months single entry. Now there's going to be a $15,000 bond. For those who want to, visit the US for business or visit the US for work. A lot of non-immigrant work visas are also 3 months single entry. And at a point, green card approvals were halted for a number of high-risk countries. Even in terms of highly skilled visas, the cost has increased. Approval rates have also plummeted. So for a lot of people who were trying to go the immigration route, or as we call it in Nigeria, Japa, the Japa route via work, some of those paths are no longer as tenable as they used to be. For those who are trying to migrate to the UK via work, there are also conversations around increasing the number of years that you have to be in the UK before you can qualify for permanent leave to remain. So a lot of these things are beginning to dim the light of a lot of people who wanted to go get second passports via work routes. So that's a dynamic that you need to pay attention to. Also because but a number of these countries no longer want non-natives, whatever that the color of a native may be. So that's really increasing anti-immigrant sentiment. So even for workers that are in these countries legally, there's a dark cloud of they don't want me. There's a dark cloud of I'm under so much scrutiny, even if I'm there legitimately. And that's making a lot of people begin to think about, why can't I then go to the Middle East? I'm a highly skilled individual. If it's about earning a certain income and then finally migrating to, another country that wants me. A lot of people are beginning to think of alternatives where you can earn the high income, and then from there, you can then have your choice, because you will then be classified as a highly skilled expatriate. So at that point, you can decide where you want to go from there. And some people are making long-term plans to eventually return home. And this is driving what I call the reverse migration, where a lot of Africans are beginning to think, I have a home, like nobody's driving me from home. Now, what is going to happen, and this is one of those times when you pay very close attention. If you're sharp, two things happened during Dirty December, which is, a Nigerian term for, the December celebrations that typically happen, and also a lot of the diasporans that come to the country during the Christmas celebrations. A number of things happened during Dirty December, and then a number of things happened immediately after. And this will be your trigger for the reverse migration. Once you see certain things happening, know that people are coming home. During Dirty December, two celebrities had medical emergencies. One was an accident, and one was a medical, alleged medical negligence. Now, because this is a public forum, I can't mention the names of those two celebrities. But what that did was that it showed a lot of people the breakdown in the Nigerian medical system, and sent a signal to diasporans that if they're going to return home, medical care must be assured. They don't want to return home to die. So but then immediately after, we had an announcement by one of the richest women in Africa. She launched a global world-class teaching hospital in a state in Nigeria. Two sides of the coin. So what is going to happen is we're going to see more venture funding coming into medical care, because the diasporans cannot return home without medical care, without certain types of facilities. For those who've been following the news, there's an orthopedic surgeon who has returned to Nigeria to do knee surgeries at global level. So what's going to happen is, because there's now an infrastructure gap in terms of healthcare that will limit the capacity of diasporans to come home, you're going to start seeing a lot of venture funding, grant funding, high net worth individuals, underwriting the cost. And we're going to begin to see global medical facilities across Nigeria. Now, this is important because the last time we had a global health crisis, COVID, high net worth individuals realize that if the borders are shut, they are stuck in Africa, they are stuck in Nigeria, depending on which country you happen to be in. And so a lot of them are beginning to invest in global facilities within the country. The second thing you're going to see is electricity. There's a lot, because of the policy changes, where now private individuals can produce electricity, companies can produce electricity. You're going to start seeing a lot more attention on, being placed on renewable energy and mini grids. Once you start seeing that trend ramping up, reverse migration is knocking on the door. The last thing is political changes, political reforms. That's still a long time away, but we're going to discuss that as we go along in this presentation. Now, once that reverse migration begins, you're going to be seeing highly skilled individuals who then need premium real estate, because these are people that have lived abroad. These are people that earn in foreign currency. So in coming home, they're not only going to bring their venture funding and start companies of their own at their level of excellence, capacity, but they're also going to need places to stay. They're going to need hospitals. They're going to demand better of the service industry. We saw a lot of videos during Dirty December where diasporans were calling out service industries to say, if we're bringing in this kind of money, we demand a certain level of service. So all of those things are going to happen during the reverse migration. So begin to think about how you're going to mine the investment opportunities inherent in the reverse. And it's going to happen across Africa. It's not just Nigeria. Nigeria just happens to be the largest market in Africa. We're also going to be seeing a rise of demand for second passports, whether it's citizenship by investment, citizenship by residency. We're going to see a lot of increase because people are not going to want to spend 5 to 10 years in another country. If they're high earners, they're simply just going to buy the passport or do minimal residency in certain countries to get the second passports. They're not going to wait 5 to 10 years. Please prepare for war. I'm not a warmonger. I'm just a realist. We've seen it before. What is going on now, if you're a student of history, you know where it's going. So please prepare for war, prepare for turmoil, geopolitical turmoil, and that's also going to drive the reverse migration. So prepare for turmoil. AI is now a weapon. War is no longer tanks. War is no longer guns. War is cyber warfare. War is culture. So prepare for a lot of national security events over the next 5 years. There's also going to be what you call the rise of the wise. And that's why I said I will come back to political changes in Africa. You noticed during COVID, people listened to technocrats because when people are afraid for their lives and where there's global turmoil, people tend to listen to the wise. People tend to listen to technocrats. So that will be the entry point for some political reform across Africa. It will not be a willing reform. It will be a needs-based and emergency response. So pay attention to those things as well. In terms of macroeconomic trends, we're seeing Western leaders talk about Southern Hemisphere. It's the second Berlin conference has started. Western leaders are literally sharing Africa, sharing Asia, sharing South America, and they're doing it brazenly. So you can't say you don't know. The second Berlin conference has begun, and everyone is taking their piece. So we're going to begin to see political alliances changing simply because countries are trying to protect themselves from the second Berlin conference. And if you're sharp, you've actually been paying attention to what's going on. Alternative global payments. The world is trying to break the hegemony of SWIFT. So we're going to see a lot of cryptocurrency alternatives. We're going to see different regions of the world launching their own payment systems that are independent of SWIFT. So again, for those who are paying attention to the cryptocurrency space, this is a time for you to begin to make strategic investments in alternative payments. Fintech, if you're a venture capitalist, if you're a VC, fintech, we can't have enough fintechs. So just pay attention to that space. Need for scarce commodities and energy. There's going to be a land grab for Africa. And that's because Africa is home to rare earth metals. So we're going to see a lot of opportunity grab, land grab, simply because the demand for rare earth metals. For those who have been following investment trends, you saw what happened with silver. Silver reached record highs. So commodities, because Africa is a commodities heaven. We have food, we have rare earth metals. So there's going to be a land grab for Africa, and it has already begun for those who are paying attention to certain companies that are beginning to buy vast tracts of arable land for farming. It started, so pay attention. As an investor, agriculture should be something you should be looking at now. Land is also going to be needed for solar energy, renewable energy. The sea is going to be needed for data centers because of the natural cooling effect of water. And Africa has sea, Africa has land, Africa has food, Africa has rare earth metals. So just be watching what's going to happen over the next 5 years. In terms of technology, AI is here to stay, particularly agentic agents. For those who are Marvel comic fans, that vision of Jarvis, Tony Stark's AI, is going to come to pass. AI is going to be 3D. AI is going to be holographic. We're going to be having conversations with our AI. So AI agents that can automate repetitive tasks while you are asleep. AI will become your assistant, truly. So a lot of jobs will just disappear, and AI right now, particularly because of Claude, you don't need to know how to code to use AI. So pay attention. If you're not using AI normally, the world will leave you behind simply because it will be embedded in everything. If I advise you, go and watch the summary of CES. It's one of the largest tech conferences in the world. It takes place in the US, I think every January. Go and watch the summary on YouTube so that you can look at the top technology trends for 2026. Everything is going to be connected. There will be no such thing as data privacy unless you deliberately choose to ensure your privacy. Because even if you have data privacy, the minute somebody comes into your house with their AI-enabled smart glasses, your own privacy has just been breached. So privacy is also another place to look at in terms of venture capital, companies that can help with privacy and anti-hacking, because hacking is now going to be done by AI agents. So companies that are building products for privacy, building products for cybersecurity. If you're a VC, pay attention to those areas because of the rapid rise. And because of AI, that's why we're going to have a need for batteries. We're going to have a need for data centers. So Africa is still the key because we need space. The world needs space for the massive data centers that are going to power the AI revolution. They need renewable energy because data centers run on energy. So you can begin to see the link with Africa now. So all of these things are connected. And we've not even started talking about quantum computing. We're still at AI. Quantum computing is coming as well. So pay attention to a lot of all these trends. Medical devices and enhancements. Longevity is real. We're going to have artificial organs, artificial heart, artificial kidney. People are going to live long. So because of that, what are the investment opportunities in longevity? We're going to have cyborgs. People are going to have implants in their bodies. So it's just something you just have to accept. If you're a sci-fi fan, you will not be surprised. if you watch sci-fi, you will actually not be surprised. But just take it that in 2020, between 2026 and 2031, we're just going to have a leap forward in medical devices and bodily enhancements. If you've been following China, now when you visit China as a tourist, you don't need to climb mountain. You just wear a suit, and that suit turns you into bionic man, and you're able to climb a mountain without effort. These things are real. So there's going to be a lot of advancement in terms of bodily enhancements, medical devices that are connected to AI, implants that are connected to AI, broadcasting 24/7. So pay attention to opportunities in medical devices. Pay attention to VR and gaming. Gaming is going to be the gateway to the spatial economy. So for a lot of you that have children, VR and gaming is here to stay. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's going to be one of the gateways to the spatial economy. That's going to be one of the gateways to some other things that I'll discuss as we go along in this presentation. So one of the things you need to do as a parent is make plans for gaming addiction. And it needs to start now. There's going to be a lot of addiction to gaming. People are going to prefer the virtual world to the real world because Gen Alpha grew up on technology. They don't know anything else. They grew up on technology. They don't read paper books. They don't interact with the world without technology. So as a parent, please prepare for technology addiction and begin to put things in place to prevent that from happening to your Gen Alpha children. There's also the field of non-local consciousness research. So one of the things that has happened is that science has actually found the compound that can unlock higher consciousness. And what that does is that using psychotropic drugs, using VR, they can manipulate those centers in your brain. So you're going to be seeing a lot of people that are super smart simply because the scientific research. I encourage you to read this book if you don't want to go into the science and you just want to read it as fiction. Read Dan Brown's The Secrets of Secrets. The Secret of Secrets by Dan Brown. The research and the science is sound. He didn't lie in the book. And you can fact check what he's saying. So what is happening is that the brain is increasingly becoming a receiver, and the scientists are enhancing the capacity of the brain to receive more data because we only use a very small subset of our brain. So what they're trying to do is to unlock the parts that we don't normally use. So you're going to see a lot of super smart humans over the next a couple of years. And it's not because they were born smart. It's because the brain is they're just unlocking more aspects of their brain. If you can, research the phenomenon called sudden savant syndrome. That will give you an idea. Once you unlock those parts of your brain, there's some individuals in the world that because of a head injury or head trauma, they were able to unlock certain parts of their brain. So overnight, they started speaking languages they didn't know. They started demonstrating musical skills they'd never had. They just unlocked certain parts of their brain. And the phenomenon is called sudden savant syndrome. So these are things you need to research now before it comes on you. So in terms of venture funding, where should you put your money? Let's go into the money conversation. Data centers. Put your money in data centers. Put your money in battery technology. These are areas that are going to blow up simply because of the AI revolution and the need for energy. Medical implants and anti-aging, if you're a VC, pay attention to that. Immersive life experiences. After a while, people are going to be tired of walking around with VR headgear and looking, and being in a stupor. So people are going to want to see other human beings. So you're going to find an increase in in-person communities, but they would blend digital and physical. So the live events are not going to go anywhere. Communities are not going to go anywhere because as the world's dependence on technology increases, people will realize that they are human beings and that they actually need to unplug from time to time. So in-person communities, if you're a VC, these are areas I should look at, and of course, do your due diligence. For global investments, war and defense, there's going to be war in one form or the other, whether it's war with tanks or cyber war, there's going to be war. So focus on war and defense tech if you're looking for global investment stock picks. AI-driven tech, whether it's health tech, clean tech, entertainment tech. I'm sure you know that AI is now a music producer. There are people who produce sounds. There are people who do Afrobeat version of existing tracks using AI, and it sounds very good. So entertainment AI is another thing that you should pay. Anything that can be enhanced by AI, those are real products that can be enhanced by AI. Medical devices, that's another area to look at. VR and gaming, both on the VC side and the stock side. So we're looking at the stocks that you should buy now. Psychotropics, if you don't have ethical concerns, there are some people that have ethical concerns about investing in psychotropics. The same way there are some people that have ethical concerns about investing in war and defense. But if you don't have ethical concerns, the minute marijuana became legal, all bets were off. There are some types of LSD that are now going through phase 3 trial. People are going to unlock their brain and unlock their consciousness using psychotropics. So there's nothing you can do about it. Mushrooms, psilocybin, mushrooms. These are things that are now going through clinical trials. For stability, you need safe haven, gold, silver, things that are never going to go out of fashion. And if you're a high net worth individual, I can teach you how to invest in gold and silver and even add more value. So gold and silver, Bitcoin, other coins that are being used as payment tools. Just focus on alternative payment rails. For Nigeria, the stock exchange. At some point, we're going to need to revamp the entire stock exchange. You can't handle the volumes. And there's it doesn't have liquidity. So at some point we're going to, and this is one of the reasons why the reverse migration is very important, because we need certain skills. Certain people need to come home with certain global skills, because we're going to need to completely redesign our stock market. But it's very important. The world is coming to Africa to look for growth. In the Nigerian stock market, you can easily make 25% per annum without doing anything. In the US, you're still going to need to peg it to the S&P 500. So you maybe make an average of 10 to 12%. And for those who have been paying attention, currency has been stable for the last 2 years. So it means you can invest at 25% and then change your money back to dollars within a window. And stocks are very liquid, especially if you go through, certain channels that I can advise on. Seasonal commodities, Nigeria has a defined dry and wet season. I said pay attention to January, February, and October. And that's because those 3 months are where we have our stock earning season and our commodity season. So as a Nigerian, if you only invest 3 times a year, you are fine. Seasonal commodities, very, very important, because we have a defined rainy season, dry season. And there's certain things, we're a very religious nation. The price of ram will always increase during Ramadan. The price of rice and chicken will always increase during Christmas. Our cycles are very predictable. So that's why I said, if you're a Nigerian, there are maybe only 3 months that are important to you in terms of entering certain types of investments. Renewable energy and battery storage, because we need to electrify Nigeria. We're sitting on one of the youngest populations in the world. So in terms of tech adoption, we're ripe, but we don't have lights. So we need to solve electricity and solve light before we can unlock the tech potential of millions of young Nigerians. So that's why there's a global push to electrify Nigeria. And a lot of that is going to happen using microgrids. AI and data centers. We're now sub-Saharan Africa's 2nd largest co-location market. This is going to happen. Like, Nigeria is just going to be one of the global centers for AI. We're ripe for it. Real estate, residential and industrial parks, because once the reverse migration starts, people are going to need where to live. Premium real estate will become the thing. And then some of the VCs that are coming back will need industrial parks. So pay attention to industrial parks, pay attention to premium. And then also for those who know our elections, when a lot of the politicians have money, they buy real estate without looking at price tag. So also position yourself ahead of the elections. In terms of specific stock picks, we provide to our clients on request because it's a dynamic. You can't just recommend stocks now. In 3 months, you have to recommend something else. Like, it's a very dynamic process. So for specific stock picks, we do it on request, and we also trade stocks and buy stocks on behalf of our clients. But these are the general themes. You can have a conversation with your stockbroker yourself and give instructions that, based on some of these themes that I have shared during this presentation, that it should give you a list of top 5 stocks to hold for 5 years. Your stockbroker can do that work for you, but just give them the areas and give them, the themes. And like I said, for our clients, we advise on how to buy gold, how to increase the value. If you buy gold, we also manage stock portfolios for our clients. But as I round up, I have a number of questions. What will you use money for? In the next 5 years, the ability to create wealth is not your problem. But are you a purpose-driven individual? Are you the kind of person that when money comes into your hand, you have a plan beyond school fees, building a house, or immigration? Because I find that when I talk to my clients, a lot of times they don't have any other plan beyond school fees, buying a house, traveling. But there are certain types of wealth that do not come to people who don't know what to do with it. What will you use money for in the next 5 years? If you don't have a plan, I suggest you speak to a private wealth advisor to help you create a plan. Because the next 5 years are going to happen so fast that if you don't have a plan, you're not going to be able to keep the money that you have made. You can make money, but you will lose it because you don't have a plan. So I advise that you speak to a private wealth advisor, let them design a wealth plan for you so that as you begin to make money, you actually know what you're going to use it for. Number 2, what will you do with your reclaimed time? When you make money, you then have time. You can outsource, pay a lot of people to do things you're currently doing. And then if you watch CES, like I mentioned, and you look at the top 10 tech, you will find that the world is moving towards a choreless house, a house where there are no chores, where robots do a lot of work without you even having to do anything. That's where the world is moving. You may not witness it, but your children will witness it. And at that point, when that time has been reclaimed, even in in-person communities, the world is moving towards robot-assisted babysitting. So you're going to have libraries where you have a few parents for physical supervision, and then you have robots. People will drop their children in those libraries so that they can learn socialization and they can also be supervised. So time is going to, a lot of parents are going to reclaim time. So what are you going to do with that reclaimed time in the next 5 years? It may happen to you, it may happen to your children, but we're getting to a point where time will be reclaimed. Whether you reclaim it with money by outsourcing all your existential issues, or you reclaim it with tech, you are going to reclaim time. What will you do with that reclaimed time? And then finally, what impact will you have on the world? Again, certain types of monies do not go to people that are selfish. So what is your selfless mission for the world? If money comes into your hand, what do you plan to do with it? That's very, very important. For those who want to book an investment planning session, you can scan the QR code. Whether you want to design your wealth plan, whether you want us to craft a specific stock portfolio for you. But like I said, it's dynamic. So even if we craft the portfolio, you need to refresh every couple of months because the world is moving. And if you just want to talk about the geopolitical impact of the world on your investment, depending on your jurisdiction, I'm sure you noticed there was a speech that was done by a Western leader, and he introduced a very interesting term, middle power. Those who understand investment know what to do with that statement. So if you just want to have a conversation around geopolitics, you want to have a conversation around second residency, second passport, you want to have a conversation around migration, trusts, tax benefits, whatever you want to have a conversation about, book an investment planning session, and we'll connect you with a licensed fund manager that can sit down with you. And if you're a family and you say you want a 4-hour session, you want your family members to be present so that you can craft the family investment plan for the next 5 years, you can also do that via this QR code. But the next 5 years are important. Billionaires will be created, millionaires will be created, and some people are going to lose their money over the next 5 years. This is the end of my formal presentation.